From The Times and The Sunday Times, this is The Story. I'm Luke Jones. On a typically rainy summer's day, my Times colleague Lily Russell-Jones went on a mission.
So I have just driven an hour outside of Edinburgh with my photographer, Ewan, and we've arrived at a grey building, and it's quite imposing, but it's surrounded by very peaceful fields, countryside, forest, mountains. We're coming up to the door, there's a gravel driveway, and outside there's a big pair of antlers which are facing the door, and then there's a large wooden door with a golden handle which we're about to try and go through.
This is Castle Craig, an addiction treatment centre.
My name is Christopher, I'm an addict and a compulsive gambler.
I'm Geraldine, I'm an everything addict.
I'm Albert, I'm a compulsive gambler and an alcoholic.
I'm Paul, I'm addicted to almost everything.
Lily was there to investigate a new and growing problem: addictions to investing in cryptocurrency.
There are so many people, starting to lose so much money, which is putting, a strain on the NHS, for instance.
But with Labour talking about making the UK a crypto hub, and the industry still largely unregulated, is this only going to get worse? The story today: the gambling addicts hooked on crypto.
I'm Lily Russell-Jones, and I am a senior money reporter at The Times and The Sunday Times.
Describe this place you've been to recently. Is it just outside Edinburgh?
So it's about an hour's drive outside Edinburgh into the countryside, and it's a big grey stone mansion, and it's a treatment centre for all types of addiction. So it's a rehab clinic, but they also specialise in treating people who have become addicted to trading crypto, and they're one of the first places in the world to start doing that.
And in terms of the people who you meet at Castle Craig who have an issue with this, what were they like? What kind of people were they?
When I spoke to the doctors at Castle Craig, they basically said that 90% of the people they're treating are men. They're typically under the age of 40 and often middle class, but it can affect anybody. So the sort of lead therapist there, Tony Marini, said they've treated labourers as well as billionaires. Castle Craig treats people from all over the world. And I spoke to someone called Karim, who is 35. He's from Istanbul. So he's not actually called Karim. That's the name that he's asked us to use, but he gave us permission to use his voice.
I was kind of a person who was putting all his money, whatever I have, I was trying to invest with that.
He was somebody who was working in healthcare administration and basically had become addicted to trading cryptocurrency.
And had he come from Istanbul just for this treatment, as in he travelled for that?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that because Castle Craig is one of the first places in the world to offer the treatment.
And how much had the treatment for him at Castle Craig cost him?
I don't know exactly how much it cost him specifically, but we know that for patients who stay at Castle Craig, it costs upwards of about £4,000 a week.
Wow. And for Karim, how did his issue with trading crypto start?
When he was a student at university, he started making bets on the outcomes of sports fixtures. And then when he won something, he would use the money and he would invest in stocks and shares or commodities or currencies.
Okay. But in the beginning, it was around $10,000. At that time, because I wasn't working, I was a university student, so I didn't have income. So it was basically the money which is given from my parents.
But it wasn't until 2017 that he started to put money into crypto.
I didn't really believe in them in the beginning, but I like the volatility of going there. There's a lot of volatility because traditional financial assets, they move 10% per day at most. But the cryptos, they can move 300% per day. So it was very attractive for me.
And he was actually very successful initially. So in 2017, he says he put about $3,000 into small cryptocurrencies such as Dogecoin and Solana.
Like more speculative ones, which has a lower market value, but bigger potential.
Bigger potential, so to move up and down in price.
Exactly. I mean, for example,
And 4 years later, his stake was worth about $150,000. So that's how he got drawn into this. He was very, very successful quite quickly. And then it meant that he went on to lose a lot more money than he had initially made.
Yes. And how did that happen?
He told me that his friends and family members started to give him money, some of which was given to him to invest on their behalf, but he just lost all of it.
and I was so confident that I'm good at it, so that's why I started to take money from people.
And how much do you think you took from friends and family to invest?
In total,
Yeah.
lots of money, around 1.5 million.
Okay, 1.5 million.
Yeah, dollars.
And then lost
all of it. Yeah.
Lost all of it.
So if he's in this losing streak, I mean, how does that affect his life, losing that amount of money? I mean, I don't assume he's the kind of person who could lose that much money.
He said that last year his marriage ended after he took money from his wife's bank account to fuel his crypto trading addiction. He said that he felt like when he was sort of addicted to trading cryptocurrency, he couldn't really be present in the lives of his loved ones, including his daughter, because he was thinking about his trades and the prices all the time.
For example, when my wife was pregnant, she was looking for some attention. I was looking at my phone all the time, and she was coming to me for a foot massage, for example. Because the only thing I could give to her was the foot massage. Because while doing the foot massage, I could just check my phone. So I really put her in a very miserable position.
He said he didn't feel like he could tell the friends and family members who he'd borrowed money from that he had lost it. So that meant he had a lot of sleepless nights where he would be awake checking the prices sort of every few hours or every few minutes. As he lost money, he tried to win it back by making more trades, which went wrong.
Have you obviously spoken to your friends and family now?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, how was telling them about what had kind of happened?
Wasn't good, to be honest. It was like to escape from this reality. I even thought about suicide.
So it became a problem which escalated, and it was very personally stressful for him. And he said that he has a 2.5-year-old daughter who he wants to have a better relationship with. That's actually why he decided to come forward and get help.
And we'll come back to what's happening at Castle Craig and with people like him in a moment. Just to be really basic, when we say trading crypto and people doing that to the extent that it's problematic, what do all of those words mean?
Sure. So if we start with cryptocurrency, what we tend to be talking about is a digital form of currency which is encrypted. So there's not a physical asset behind it, and governments aren't backing it. So the price that you have is basically what people think it's worth in a lot of cases, and that means that it can be very volatile. So a lot of people will get sucked into making bets on the price going up or down in the same way that they might get addicted to gambling on something else, like a sports fixture, for example.
And is this a growing problem in the UK? I mean, are there a lot of people who find themselves in this situation?
The figures suggest there might actually be a surprising number. The government estimates that there are about 5 million people in the UK who own or have bought cryptocurrency. And a recent survey by GamCare, which is a charity which offers free support to people who have issues with gambling and addiction, said that they think about 13% of people who have bought cryptocurrency said it had become a problem for them. So that gives an indication of there being potentially thousands or even potentially hundreds of thousands of people who might have an issue.
Why is it that trading crypto seems like it is so addictive in a way that, I don't know, trading stocks or Pokemon cards isn't?
Bitcoin, the price can move incredibly quickly. So it's up about 690% since the start of 2020. It was worth $69,000 in November 2021. It crashed the following year to about $16,000, and then it was worth $73,000. It reached a new high in March this year. So you can see that it's moving all over the place. Bitcoin is the most popular cryptocurrency and it's the most famous, but there are now thousands of different cryptocurrencies, and the price movements of some of those smaller cryptocurrencies can be even more dramatic. So I think it's incredibly accessible for people and it doesn't switch off.
Interesting that you said it's gone up 690% since the start of 2020 and obviously had that massive dip at the end of 2021, of which it's rebounded quite dramatically. Interesting that all of that has happened during COVID and when a lot of people with nothing else to do got into things which now maybe they wish they hadn't.
Yeah, so we know that quite a lot of people started investing in cryptocurrencies for the first time during the pandemic. The FCA, so the Financial Conduct Authority, which is the regulator, their data suggests that about 19% of people between the ages of 18 and 34 held investments at the start of 2020. And then by mid-2022, it had gone up to 29% for that age group. And half of those new investors almost had bought cryptocurrency. So it's very popular with younger age groups and became very popular during that time. And now I think that we're seeing people coming forward to seek help from kind of gambling services such as Castle Craig, but also the National Gambling Helpline, who are saying this has actually become a problem for me.
So that's the problem then. What about some of the people that you met? I'm thinking especially at Castle Craig who are trying to actually help people in this kind of pickle, people like Karim, who you were talking about earlier.
So the main therapist at Castle Craig who I spoke to is Tony Marini.
So I'm the senior specialist therapist.
The senior specialist therapist at Castle Craig.
He's a former gambling addict himself, not to cryptocurrency, to other types of gambling. And he's become a therapist, and so he's treating people there. He's very nice. He's very knowledgeable about the subject. So Castle Craig itself has been going for a long time. It's a rehab centre treating all kinds of addictions. But Tony said that in 2016, they had their first patient who they noticed was showing signs of being addicted to trading cryptos.
So 2016, I had the first compulsive crypto addict. Mm-hmm. And he explained to me about, how he had won £750,000 trading cryptos and Bitcoin and so forth. But then he told me about, that feeling that he had inside of the euphoria of all of that took him to cocaine, champagne, women, nightclubs, and then took him to actually making more and more riskier trades and also normal gambling. And at the end of it, he had lost £1.5 million.
And it just got him thinking that people who had a propensity to become addicted to things like gambling were very attracted to cryptocurrencies. And so then it started to become something that the clinic was offering specifically to people who needed help with a crypto addiction.
And so if there's similarities between crypto addiction and other addictions, is the treatment broadly the same as well? When I go there to be treated for my crypto gambling addiction, does that look much like any other kind of addiction treatment?
Yeah, so at Castle Craig, people addicted to crypto trading were using the 12-step program. So it's a therapy program where people are given really clear stages towards their recovery to work through. That's exactly the same for gambling as it was for crypto, and it's also used for some sort of substance abuse addictions as well.
Is part of the issue as well that crypto at the moment has a kind of cool sheen on it where, going into some bookies in the middle of the day and losing all your earnings on the horses or on some kind of slot machine isn't? Is that sort of part of the problem at play, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a whole kind of online discourse around it. There's quite a big community online, a crypto community with a big presence, and there are memes for times when you're losing money and times when you're making money. There's endless videos, aren't there, of people saying, I made a fortune trading crypto, and they talk about it as investing. And so I think that it definitely is couched in this kind of language of being a good investor, being good with your money. You never really hear about the potential dark side for kind of things like addiction and for it to become a problem in your life. And definitely it has been seen as trendy for young people, I think, especially since the COVID pandemic.
So Lily spoke to Karim, the cryptocurrency addict who has travelled all the way from Turkey to seek help at Castle Craig, this treatment centre just outside Edinburgh. But he wasn't the only person she met there. She also went along to a group session for people addicted to a variety of different things.
We were sitting in a wood-panelled room at Castle Craig. The whole building is quite grand. There was a fireplace in one corner and there were 11 of us sitting in a circle in armchairs in front of a bay window, including Tony Marini, who was the therapist.
Okay, so welcome to this group today. Okay, we're going to be mainly talking on gambling, the effects, the cross-addiction, where it comes to.
And then, he got people in turn to introduce themselves.
My name is Christopher. I'm an addict and a compulsive gambler.
I'm Geraldine. I'm an everything addict.
I'm a compulsive gambler and an alcoholic.
I'm Paul. I'm addicted to almost everything.
They talk about their experience with gambling, how it had affected their life.
Gambling, I used to gamble every hour of the day. I wouldn't sleep because I would gamble. I wouldn't go to work, I would cancel meetings, I would engage with people. At the point I was playing rugby, I stopped playing rugby because everything in my life just started to revolve around gambling, to try and get an escape from the realities of life.
It's really harrowing, really, to listen to how big an impact this can have on people. And what really stood out was the isolation that people feel when they are gambling.
It isolated me from my friends, from my family. I pushed people away. It made me feel worthless. It led me to trying to take my own life on 2 occasions.
It kind of becomes the only thing that makes them feel better, but it's also becoming the source of a problem, and it can be very hard to admit it to people around you. With crypto addiction, Karim referred to it as a silent type of addiction.
People cannot understand that you have addiction into this because drugs and alcohol, there are some physical symptoms.
Because if you're addicted to drugs or you're addicted to alcohol, it might be really obvious to people around you because of the physical symptoms of it, or they might see you doing it. But if you're addicted to trading cryptocurrency on your phone, it can be really difficult for your loved ones to spot.
Yeah.
And this thing, you can just put on a smile and then behave like nothing happened. And that's what happened, like with my wife.
So that was something that came out of the session as well.
What does sober look like for these kind of addicts?
When I was speaking to Tony Marini at Castle Craig, he said that for some people it would mean stopping investing altogether. So in anything, not just crypto. He suggested taking a very hardline approach. And that was what Karim was trying to do. He was trying to stop completely investing.
He's not trying to get them to a point where they could have a healthy relationship with trading in crypto. It's just stop it.
That was very much what he suggested.
Is this an NHS issue? I mean, it seems as destructive as other kinds of addictions for which you get treatment on the NHS. I mean, is this something which is on their radar or concerning them?
Yeah. So about 21% of the people being treated at Castle Craig for an addiction have been sent by the NHS and are having their treatment funded. The rest are self-funding or being funded by private health insurance. But we know that it's something that's on the NHS's radar because last month, Amanda Pritchard, the chief executive of the NHS in England, said that the numbers of crypto addicts who are attending gambling clinics run by the NHS has increased. And she warned that the NHS is being left to pick up the pieces when people become addicted to crypto gambling.
And yet this is an area, crypto, not people who have a problem with crypto, that the current government is wanting to expand on and actually attract more crypto firms here to the UK.
What the government has said is that they want to turn the UK into a global hub for crypto firms. So they want to make it a welcoming environment, basically, for technology companies looking into crypto. And it's also said that it wants to integrate stablecoins into the country's payment network. And these are a type of cryptocurrency which is typically pegged to the value of a government-issued currency like sterling or the dollar.
Which kind of takes all the volatility which attracts people, doesn't it? I mean, a stablecoin is just a coin.
Exactly. So the government has made a statement in terms of saying we see stable coins as a potential part of our future payments network. They've not said anything about the really volatile cryptocurrencies that people are speculating on. We don't know exactly how they're going to be regulated or whether something that retail investors could even be prevented from doing. For the most part, at the moment, crypto is not regulated in the UK.
And that is wild. I mean, what do you mean by that? I mean, just that there is you can do anything. It is a complete Wild West.
Obviously, you could be caught out by things like fraud regulation, etc. Potentially if you were involved in like a crypto scam. But if you make an investment or you have money in the bank, you know that in general your money is covered by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme if something goes wrong. So say the company that's holding your money or is holding the investment that you've made goes bust, there is some financial protection for you. But crypto obviously wouldn't be included in anything like that. That's basically the upshot of it, is that it does make it more difficult to get compensation or to get help if something goes wrong.
Around all of this, who are the people making the case for this? I mean, who is still blowing the trumpet for it?
Last week, I spoke to the Bitcoin investor and podcaster Peter McCormack, who bought the football club Bedford FC in 2021. And he said he has Bitcoin in his portfolio to protect his money against inflation. So this is one of the main arguments which investors make for Bitcoin. There's a fixed supply, so only 21 million Bitcoins will ever come into existence. And people say that that makes it similar to gold, which they see as a store of value. There's another argument, which is that financial institutions are starting to become more interested in crypto assets, and there's a market for them amongst investors, people who have spent about 15.5 billion so far this year. And then Benjamin Dean from the investment firm Wisdom Tree, he said that the main reason you might want to include crypto in your portfolio is for diversification, because crypto doesn't perform in the same way as the stock market, for example. It performs independently. And there are only a few asset classes historically where returns from your investment can increase by multiples of the original amount. So if you are investing money that you can afford to lose, you're aware of the risks, you have a small amount allocated to crypto of your overall portfolio, there is obviously the potential to make large gains. And that is very attractive to some investors.
Yes. And in terms of our exposure or enthusiasm for that risk, is the UK much of an outlier, or are we the same as pretty much any other developed economy?
I think it's really difficult to know. It's like quite difficult to compare countries because it's hard to get reliable data, to be honest. But the research firm Chainalysis said that investors in the UK in the year to June 2023, they were sent or bought about $252 billion of crypto. So that was the third highest of all the countries that they looked at. The highest was the US, where there was sort of more than $1 trillion. But a lot of that apparently was coming from institutions. So it's difficult to know how the retail traders or like the everyday traders compare by country.
So this is such a booming world, isn't it? And if you cycle back to what you were talking about happens at Castle Craig, trying to help people who have got involved in this world and got addicted to all that it brings them, there's a sense that this could get a lot worse, couldn't it? And there could be more and more people piling into places like Castle Craig soon.
I think it's difficult to predict where this is going to go next. We know that a lot more people started investing in cryptocurrency during the pandemic, but the numbers seem to have plateaued slightly since then, but it is difficult to find reliable data. We are seeing more and more people coming forward though, and that's something that was obvious in the data from the National Gambling Helpline. Obviously, Castle Craig said they'd treated 120 patients since 2016. Now that number has grown to more than 300, and they're getting patients from all over the world all the time. And then we've also had the comments from the chief executive of NHS England, who has noticed an increase in the number of people coming forward at gambling clinics. So whether these are people who became addicted previously and have just come forward, or they're examples of people who are becoming newly addicted and coming forward, we don't know yet. But certainly it could be a growing problem in the future if there's more and more accessibility to crypto assets.
And also the number of people who leave places like Castle Craig having had the problem solved. I mean, is that a common occurrence? Do they have quite a good success rate?
So they told me that of the patients that they treated last year, 63% haven't relapsed into an addiction. That was across all types of addiction, including substance abuse and gambling. They said their success rates for gambling are slightly higher, at around 80%.
How far finally is Karim along that journey? I mean, what's ahead for him now? What kind of point in all of this is he?
So he's living in a safe house at the moment in Edinburgh, and he's just waiting to go back to Turkey and I suppose resume getting back into normal life and building his life back.
In terms of your kind of financial situation now, do you have a house? And Nothing?
No.
Yeah, okay.
And lots of debt.
You've got debts to pay?
Yes, but I don't have anything now. I just have a cat.
And is the cat with you in Edinburgh?
No, it's in Turkey.
In Turkey, okay. In Turkey.
My parents are looking up.
So I'd say he's at the start of the journey. He only started getting treatment in June. So I think it's going to be a lifelong thing, potentially, trying to get over an addiction to gambling.
And how do you feel now?
I feel more calmer and more peaceful now.
Yeah.
That I feel like I have a life to live.
Yeah.
Because that my previous life wasn't actually living. It was just like spending some time here.
And he hopes that will let him have a better relationship with his daughter, who's 2.5 years old. So I think that's a strong motivation for him to keep going.
I will try to make amendments to them for sure, and to my ex-wife and to my family, and to be with them when they need me, and then try to be a good person from now on.
That was Lily Russell-Jones, senior money reporter at The Times and The Sunday Times. If you've got any worries about gambling, you can contact the National Problem Gambling Charity GamCare's helpline on 0845 6000 133, or you can visit www.gamcare.org.uk for confidential support, advice and free counselling. Today's producer was Olivia Case. The executive producers were Edward Drummond and Kate Ford, and sound design and theme composition was by Mal Assetto. I'm Luke Jones. I'll see you soon.